Well, I hope this will turn out to be an interesting video. What we're looking at here are 30 varieties of 7.62 by 39 ammunition out of my collection that I've amassed over the years. So the reason I've got 30 of them out here is I've gone through the collection and I've pulled out a lot of my duplicates, things that I acquired 2 boxes of along the way because I knew I would want to trade them or potentially sell them to help pay for what I've already have into the collection financially, and then pay for new stuff. So I went through those boxes, found the stuff that I have enough duplicates of to add to this group, and I've collected 30 varieties here. We'll get into what they are in the rest of the video here, and I think we'll put these up for auction. I'll make multiple collections of 30 out of what we've got here. There's just going to be a limited amount of these. I'm not sure exactly how many I'll be able to do. Once I can't do collections of 30 anymore, I'll do maybe collections of Chinese or German or Russian or something in smaller groups until we use up all this extra stuff. The reason I'm doing this is a couple of reasons. One is to raise funds for the road trip next year. The other is to encourage some interest in collecting the 7.62 by 39 round specifically, or ammunition in general. I've always found it to be a fairly inexpensive thing to collect. Worst comes to worst, of course this is all practical, I can use all of this, but I also have a lot of fun collecting it. Now the AK47 is a very prolific platform, been around for a long time in a lot of countries, and that means there's been a lot of ammunition for it, and that means there's been a lot of variety in ammunition. You can see on the table, this runs the spectrum from wooden projectiles to the original, literally some of the original M43 mild steel core, to the more modern M67, both hollow point, tracer. We've got every different type of case, from brass to US manufacturer with the US primers. We've got the different colors of lacquer. We've got the copper wash, and lots of different colors of projectiles as well. I'll be loading these onto stripper clips. We've even got 3 different types of stripper clips to put them on. And I guess let's get into countries. We've got Russia, China, Germany, Yugoslavia, Hungary, I think, the United States, some country I can't tell because it's all squiggly lines, and Finland. I'm probably missing something. So we'll go along in the rest of the video here and we'll look at these individually. So again, the concept is to expose people that aren't interested in collecting to one of the reasons I find it interesting to collect, and others do as well. And then to the people that are interested in collecting, to show you exactly what's going to be going up for auction. I'm not doing this scripted, so I'm not sure if I mentioned I'm going to put these up for auction. I'm going to do this first one on video. We'll load up the stripper clips. We'll end up with 30 rounds, and that first 30 rounds will go up on auction. I'm going to start it for a penny because I honestly have no idea what this might be worth to people, and we'll see what that goes for. I'm going to include the spam can patches, since we just got in the 7.62 by 39 reorder. These things can sometimes be a real headache to get the reorders in, and we finally got them in. So we'll include a set of the spam can patches, as well as our 1.4C ammo, small arms transportation placard. These come in the bags with the spam can information card. So hopefully that makes it a little encouraging for people that might not be interested in the ammunition part of it and that just want to help in the fundraising part of it. Once that first auction goes, we'll have an idea of how much interest there is in something like this, and then what it might be worth. Like I say, I'll load up as many collections like this, starter collections or instant collections, whatever we're going to call them, just depending on the interest. And if there's even more interest, I'd be happy to help facilitate people finding some of this stuff. So some of this I've just procured over the years. It was what was common at stores or at gun shows. Some of it, like some early Russian stuff, I just happened to know somebody who had some for sale. And some of the Chinese stuff, happen to have friends at gun shops that know I look for things like this, and they hold it for me when it comes in. And some of it, like the Zombie Max, was just something that was on the shelf for a while, and I knew probably wouldn't be on the shelf forever, so I grabbed some. And I imagine as I go through the ammo here, I might remember some of the stories, if there are some specific stories to any of these. So I guess I'll pause here for a second, get everything kind of set up, and we will start loading up stripper clips and getting into what each of these different types are. Now we'll have to start somewhere, and I honestly don't remember what the earliest sample is on the table, so I'm going to start with the most recent acquisition or whatever, the thing that started this whole project, and that is this 711 or the Klimovsk factory. This is some Russian steel case, of course, steel core. So this is the M43. This is the original factory Soviet ammo that was imported here commercially. This is one of the boxes. My good friend Martin Ivy, the guy that wrote the book on Kalashnikov bayonets, was here in town for SAR Show 2015, which just was this last weekend as I'm filming this. And he had brought some of this stuff out, and I didn't have any for the collection, so I bought a box, and it fell and it ripped open. But this is what the commercial box looked like in the early days of 7.62x39 Russian ammo importation, and that was pre-94, so before the restriction on mild steel core projectiles, which again, this is a M43, the projectile. So this is the boat tail bullet that has the mild steel core. Unlike any of the modern bullets from anywhere that have to comply with the import restrictions, which will have what's called the M67, or the solid lead with no steel core at all. So this is the first one that we'll be putting on one of the stripper clips here, and we'll just take a look at the 3 stripper clips that we'll use for this. And that's they have 3 different stamps on them, if I can get them to focus. One of them just says China, which I guess would be an import one. This one says 351 with a circle around it, and this one is 31 without a circle. These just happen to be the kind I have the most of, so that's what I'm using. I'm not going to use the ones I only have a couple of. And we'll start with that. Russian. Next up is some Wolf. So that tells us it's Tula, and that's the box. And I'll try to keep these as organized as possible so that when somebody's looking at them, they'll know what we're looking at. And I guess I should have planned this a little bit better. These pretty much look identical, even though they're from 2 different factories in Russia. Next up is another Tula, so also from the Tula factory, and this one is marked Tool Ammo, so this one's more modern, and the head stamp's different. It's also the steel with the clear lacquer. Next up is some Barnaul, I guess, with kind of a nondescript commercial packaging, and its head stamp is, I guess this is Yuli. I thought that looked like the Barnaul thing, but this is a Yuli. It's marked the factory Mark III in 1995. Next up is some Klimovsk. Whoa. It's just marked with its factory mark and 99. So I guess that makes sense and it looks commercial. Next we have some Chinese stuff, which is steel core. And this is just Norinco. I'm not sure how to date that. It's definitely a crude box, so I'm guessing fairly early because of steel core. It has to be pretty early, but not like some of the earliest boxes. And it's super faded, so I'm not sure what color it started out as, but I think it might be pretty true to color here, and I don't know how well the camera picks up these boxes, but copper washed, really neat. So factory 61 and 1992. So that goes in next. Then we've got some, just, I don't have the box out here. It's just labeled Wolf 762 by 39. And then next up is this China Sports, I guess you call this the maroon box. And these are factory 351, 1993. Then I have some that I don't have a box with. They're Chinese factory 31, 1994. And then the last one that'll fit on this stripper clip will be the black and white box of China Sport. And you can see it's the old Norinco logo, black and white. This is one of my favorite Chinese boxes. Look at that, 15 bucks even back in the day. So I don't know when that price tag looks old, but that's a huge price for back in the day. So this is Factory 71 from 1991. And one of my favorites, the China chocolate brown lacquered. So that's a pretty nice stripper clip. I should have planned this a little bit better. Those two could have been different, but starting out the rainbow of goodness here. So that was the China stripper clip. Next up will be the 351, and we left off with this one. So next up is one of my favorite. I don't have one of my favorites here, which is this box in blue, really, I think, but old, and it already says lead core, so it isn't super old. But this is the like non-Norinco kind of stuff. So I guess it's, I don't know what this is, CJAIE, and then over here it says Jing An, so I don't know what it is, but it's copper washed, and it says factory 31, 92. What's this stuff, 31? This one was 61, and this one was 31, 94, so it's 2 years apart. So start of Chinese factory 31 series there. Next up is this kind of yellow box. I see a lot of it here in Tucson. This is steel case, but I think they did it like that by marketing. I don't know if it was intent or not, but that makes you think, oh, steel core. But there's a lot of this stuff that has steel core written on it, so I suspect this must have been right after the 94. But why does it say 75? It can't be. I must have that upside down. Oh, it's because this box has nothing to do with it. So I guess I just have them in this box, so enjoy looking at that box, but it actually has nothing to do with these. These are dummy rounds from 1975 and Factory 81 in China. So this is the first non-standard projectile, well, non-standard round in the this instant collection. So it's Factory 81 from China, and let me double check. Yeah, it's 81 in China. And then 1975. Interesting. So anyway, it's a dummy round. You can tell by the like indentions around it and the lack of a primer at all. And I just have a bunch of these and stuck them in these boxes because I like the boxes, and I didn't want the boxes. They seem to last better with stuff in them. So you're gonna get one of those, and I think I'll take. Well, I guess we'll hit the other types of projectiles as we go along. So I guess that's probably an M43, but we don't know. So next up is these 7193s, so that must be these chocolate ones. Yeah, I just got bumped a little bit. So the next Chinese with the chocolate lacquer and Factory 71 1993, and I've never been a big fan of these boxes. We see them a lot. I always look at them because I have seen these that say steel core, I believe, so I always look at them, and then it's worth opening them because you find different dates sometimes. But sometimes people don't like you screwing with them anymore. They think these things are worth something. I don't know if they are or not, but you'll get one bullet from it. So I think we leave the Chinese completely here. Yeah, that was the end of the Chinese. So that's actually quite a bit, a little bit of Russian and quite a bit of Chinese. And now we're into Czechoslovakian. This is kind of these crappy boxes, but I guess that was what kept them cheap. And where is it? It looks like this. And they got this sloppy lacquer on them. They work great. I never really had any problems with them. But it's that clear lacquer and kind of the just solid. But then they've got kind of a, it's hard to say, almost a shine to them. Czechoslovakia really seems to like to polish their bullets up, the projectiles up. Next up we have, I guess, two in a row here that are weird. I don't know what to call them. They're squiggly lines. So this one has a bunch of squiggly lines that when I compare them to all the other ones I have that are all squiggly lines, they're this series of squiggly lines. And then the next one that'll go on the stripper clip is another of the squiggly lines. So these are probably ISIS bullets. Maybe if you want to return them to ISIS, feel free. I would return just the projectile. So let's talk about the projectile. It's a green tip, which if we look at the ammo card, where did I put it? If we look at our ammo card, we can see that green tips is tracer. So these are green tracers, and you get two of them, and they are both squiggly line head stamps, and they're different from each other in like two little squiggles. Next up will be a blister pack of these Germans. So these Germans come in blister packs with these kind of plastic bullets, I think, or whatever they are. They're like not real bullets or not 100% real bullets, and then they have these blanks. And they come in blister packs of 10, I think. I don't think they're 12. Yeah, they're metric over there, so 10. And what you end up with is the next item on the stripper clip. And you can tell when you hold it that there's not as much mass up here, but it isn't plastic like a non-lethal or anything. I would never shoot this at anything. But it gives you a 5 head stamp, 05, which is Germany, and 1986. So I'm not sure of the history on these. Sometimes you see them all the time, and then you won't see them again for a long time, and then all of a sudden they're back. So I know people that shoot them all the time. Martin says he's shot countless numbers of them. I've paid a lot more money than I would ever want to shoot countless numbers of them, but I don't think I've ever pulled the trigger on one, so I'm not sure what they even do. They must cycle the gun, but anyway, there's some sort of training round perhaps, or indoor. I'm not sure. Next up is the first blank. I guess that was our second. Well, if you count the tracer as a different type of projectile, we've gone through the M43, the mild steel core, the M67, the standard solid lead. We did the plastic projectile, and now we're doing blank, so no projectile. Again, German, so head stamp of 05 and 1986. I'm going to jump back to another blank, but this one is our first Yugoslavian. So it's a blank, but a little bit different wash, the clear lacquer instead of the whatever that color lacquer is. And I'll put it next up on the stripper clip. I don't have a box. I bought those in a big baggie, so it's just a loose one. So that's the second blank, and that'll bring us to the Zombie Max. That'll be a neat one to end on. So that's head stamp HMC, I think, and just 762 by 39, and that's your Hornady Zombie Max green tip. And I don't know, I don't think they make them anymore, I'm not really sure. So that's the second stripper clip in the Rainbow of Awesome. And that means our third stripper clip is the one that's just stamped 31. So we left off there. Next up is, I don't have a box for this one, but it is a Barnaul, just brass with the soft lead tip. Then next up, we do have the box. I don't have the sticker for the top, but these are the Lapua. Actually, let me grab the box. So that's what the box looks like. It's just that I'm using them out of this other box that's already open. Doesn't have a lid on it. They just kind of poke through the bottom so the box don't last forever. And they're Lapua. They're wooden blanks. So they're M40. They're marked M43. Obviously, they're wooden. Well, they're not obviously wooden, but they're obviously blanks though. You get 40 of them in your box, and made in Finland. And I wish I'd paid $7 for them, but that was probably when they were first around. Again, these are one of those things that for years they were allegedly just by the pallet. Nobody wanted them, and then something happened, and I don't see them very much anymore. So they're pretty cool. They're a wooden bullet with some sort of like blue dye, and their head stamp is PT and 1982. Next up is another Yugoslavian, 1980. These are out of those green ammo cans that were so popular or so plentiful a few years back. Now this next one is a neat one, at least I think it's neat. MFS, which I'm not super familiar with, but I noticed just in my travels that I had this box of MFS that we'll get to in a minute that is from Barnaul and made in Russia. And then spilled everything out there. This MFS is the other shape, and I guess that's worth noting. I'm going to grab this one because that one spilled all over. There's two ways that you can stack 20 cartridges of 7.62 by 39. The giant way and the other way. So they're both the same here, and they're both the same here. Exactly the same, right? And then there's communism for you. One of them is all this much longer for no reason. They're both 7.62 by 39. They're probably both 129 grain. Don't tell me, I guess. But it's just a different stacking method. Anyhow, this one is not just stacked differently, but it's made in Hungary. So this brings us to the next country. We've had Russia, China, Czechoslovakia, Germany, United States, Yugoslavia, Finland, and now Hungary. And the bullet isn't anything all that spectacular, I guess. It's just brass with a MFS head stamp and then 7.62 by 39, but adds another country to the mix. Next up is some Brown Bear full metal jacket, and there's Brown Bear from different places. This one looks like it's from Barnaul, and in that kind of brown lacquered case. That gums up so many people's guns. Not always though. Mostly in 223. Then we've got the some Tula kind of discreet packaging. Lead. What is that? LCB. Oh, hollow point. And again with the lacquer. Then we've got another discreet box from Klimavisk with made to hunting specs written on it. Hollow point again. Similar, but because it's a different factory, there's some differences, and mostly in the like color. And well, look, here's 3 different ones with the same lacquer. One's from Barnaul, one's from Tula, and one's from Klimavisk. We'll go on to the next one, but it's already using a different kind of lacquer. But same lacquer, we get a different sealant and a different like application, I guess, or maybe mixture, because it's like almost not so much a different thickness, but a different consistency. So for people to say, oh, I don't like 7.62 by 39 with lacquer. Okay, great, you don't like it with lacquer, but maybe Barnaul's lacquer works perfect, and maybe Tula's is gummy, and maybe Klimavisk is, I'm maybe saying these things wrong, but maybe that one, you know, works in the cold, but not in the heat. You never know. So there's a lot of variables with 7.62 by 39 ammo and Kalashnikovs in general. I find that the more I learn about them, the more I see that there's lots of places where people shouldn't rely on absolutes. Next up is some more, what is this? The Yuli. We've got so many logos. And this one's just the Yuli logo with 7.62 by 39. Now this one might be worth a good time to mention. I'm going to grab another one here. This is a good example. This is one that I don't have a box for. This is, we'll get to it in a second, but it's written 7.62 by 39. I don't know how to say, oriented away from the center of the primer. So in other words, when you're holding it, you can read the manufacturer, you know, it's in the right orientation. The 7.62 by 39 is written in the same orientation. The Yuli one here, though, is written with 7.62 by 39 across the top. So if I was to flip it, even though their logo is designed to be either way, so if I flip it and I go with the traditional factory at the top and caliber below or year below, you'll see that it's 7.62 by 39 is upside down. So I don't know how to describe that better than that. It's probably not kind of a clunky way of describing it, but it's an aspect of head stamps and checking variants that can drive you nuts and can also make it infinitely interesting. So, for example, Wolf, Tula, is insane. There's no consistency at all. I have no idea how they're able to make so many different kind of head stamps. It must be simple because they do a lot of them. And anyway, that's an interesting aspect, and that was an illustration of it. We'll move on to that same MFS, but this is the stuff from Barnaul in Russia, and we've got now a nickel case. So we had nickel next to it, the clear, a steel with the clear lacquer. Then we had the 3 different kind of lacquers. We had some standard brass with the annealing there and everything, you can see it. And then just some standard brass, and then we've had the brown lacquer, we've had the copper wash, and I guess that's about all, but a lot of different ones, and at least we got one nickel in there. So that's the end of the perimeter there. The last one is this one I was using as an example a minute ago, and this is one that I'm super happy about. It's a Winchester, and it says 7.62 by 39 on it. These are supplied to the U.S. government for testing, and I was able to procure a couple of these boxes of these from friends who they get them from the government for their occupation, and I was able to get a couple of boxes. So this one's kind of cool. And part of collecting is, I don't know what you call that, if it's really provenance or anything, it's just, but the stories that come along with it. So when you get the last one I put on here, you know that that's another example of a U.S. manufacturer, and this is made for our guys who are doing weapons familiarization type of training with foreign weapons. So that brings us to 3 10-round stripper clips, or high-capacity ammunition magazines, and lots of different color variety, lots of different projectile variety, lots of different country of origin, lots of different dates of manufacture, and I hope this is an interesting starter collection for somebody. It'll only have been dropped a few times, and because the steel cases, it'll shoot right out and everything will be fine. So I guess you probably could shoot all this. I can't ship it to anywhere that can't legally have it, and I'm sorry about that to anybody who lives in those kind of places. What I do plan to do for those people is I have a whole bunch, and when I say a whole bunch, I mean whole bunches of cool things. For example, this is a bag of Tula, what is this, 1956 letter dated. So in other words, instead of putting a date on here, they didn't want this to fall into the hands of the enemy and give them any information about their new ground. So when the AK47 first came out, they used a date code. So this is factory 539, which is the Tula factory, which would eventually become Wolf. It's got the two little stars indicating the Soviet freaking Union, and then a date letter date code. These things are super cool. You know, it's hard to get ammo like this, but I've got a whole big bag of cases which are kind of screwed up, but I know our friend Huck could probably do some cool stuff with just the head stamps, and I figure this is a great way to let someone who might be interested in collecting get their hands on some neat little pieces of history that you'll have to let me know in the comments, but I think this is something I can ship pretty much anywhere because it's not really a projectile. If the primers are an issue, we can kill them or remove them for anybody that needs to do that legally. But let's get away from that stuff. Let's all work towards making this stuff legal everywhere, or bringing this stuff back to being legal everywhere. Anyway, so this will start at a penny. We'll see how high it goes. We will throw in the set of our spam can patches. And we thank everyone who purchases the stuff from the Gear website store, gearwebsites.com. That's how we are able to keep doing stuff, and how we're going to fund our trip next year. And this will hopefully get somebody a pretty decent kickstart into Clash 7.62x39 collection, and potentially Kalashnikov ammo collection, because it's just as easy to collect 5.45. Or the 54R. 54R, there's probably more 54R than there is 7.62x39, both out there and in variety. So, hope this was an interesting half an hour for you, if nothing else, and hopefully this sparks some interest in the auction. So, hopefully this brings in a lot of money, and everybody's a winner. Let us know what you think in the comments, wherever you happen to see the video. And as always, thanks for watching.